gotta send them to the Lord. No more fear, this time I'm going off. Music blasting, all of the illusions I'm just picking off. We gon' make it better, what we got in store. We ordered the jaw, I couldn't be poor. We came at the biggest snakes to settle the score. Boy, this is a war, it could get physical too. Can't take the lies no more, we really fighting for truth. They pathological, astronomical, how they lie to you. How they got the devil grin, but they still could cry to you. You let the devil hire you and got rid of the hire you. And now he is supplying you with death and facades for you. You gon' fall for the trap. I'm on a mission for the most high, by default I don't lack. They used to blow up my jack while I was blowing them racks. Yeah, I gotta stay true, I don't put on no act. Facts.
What is an affidavit and why is it so important?
Andrea, you want to give a quick background about what we're doing with Adams in terms of our summary inquiry and where the affidavit comes in?
Well, I want to address Squeaky's question first, the affidavits. Affidavits basically are your words as fact, right? They're your truth. And the reason that's important is because when you put that timeline down, right, without the emotions in it, and to clarify, I don't mean like when I say no emotions, a lot of people think, well, I was caused emotional harm. Can I add that into the affidavit? Yes, that is statement of fact. You know, the fact that I was isolated, that was caused emotional harm. That's a statement of fact, right? When we say keep the emotions out of it, sometimes these affidavits can turn into 10, 12 pages because you're like, well, you know, I felt crushed because I couldn't visit, you know, my family member in the hospital. Those are the types of emotions we're stating, you know, we don't really need into these affidavits because now those can, you know, vary and they can be challenged, but fact can't. Affidavits themselves, right? Once you have that, you can either help us by making sure that your voice is heard through the summary inquiry that we filed with Adams, or you can even take it one step as a man or woman and serve it upon the person that caused you that direct harm, right? You can take this affidavit of harm, this affidavit of truth, statement of truth, and be like, what you did from this day to this day did this, and then just go down the line. You know, number one, you know, your EEO that you signed, you know, January 1st, 9 o'clock in the morning, after you swore to uphold the Constitution, right, restricted me from going food shopping. Right, your EEO, you know, your comments, you know, your failure to, you know, stand up against the interim president of MTA, stating that those that don't wear face covering should be put on social media, you know, on TV, create, you know, heightened anxiety within myself and my family, you know, things, you know, just go down the line and be like, well, you know, and because of all this, as a remedy, you know, this is what I'm looking for. I want you to, you know, stop extending these, you know, these emergency executive orders, allow us to, you know, shop whether we have a face covering or not, you know, stop with the mandates of an emergency use product because we are not, you know, we are not part of a clinical trial, nor we received our documents that we want to participate in one, right? And things like that. And you can serve it on them. You can serve it on them. And then you tell them how long they have in that affidavit, if you want to do it between you and that person, right? And that is a very powerful document because if they don't respond, that affidavit now becomes fact, unrebutted fact. There's nothing they can do, nothing. They can't say, oh, well, I'm going to fix it now. No, you had a chance, right? Now you're starting your own record on paper of what they did, what it caused you, and how they can fix it, and how they basically don't do it, right? We, with the summary inquiry, we want to take those affidavits, right, and use it pretty much as many as we can as a sample of the actual harm that those policies created, because we've already put them on notice starting January. They've had more than enough time to fix their mess ups, right? And now we finished our court in the private And now we went through the summer inquiry, which will help basically solidify it in the public, because right now, the way New York City is, I can't walk that document that I have to the sheriff and say, go and enforce this. He's going to look at me like, how? You know, that part of my duty was removed by the city charter a while ago. So we don't have that here. So we have to take another route. But we don't want it to be like, well, just because the assembly made these claims, how do we know it actually hurt anybody? We, the men and women that did file, right? We can go, well, we have a sample of people that were actually harmed, and this is their voice. These are their exact words, right? This is their actual harm, and this is what he did. And based on his oath, he's supposed to make sure that I don't even have one of these in my hands, because that's how his oath works, right? He's supposed to make sure that the men and women of New York City don't have their rights hindered or trampled, and no emergency can ever suspend the Constitution, ever. Which means his contract that he took an oath to right after the ball dropped, regardless of what happens in New York City, is still valid. And he can't cross those lines. And he did, because if he didn't, I wouldn't have a sample packet of all the people that were harmed, right? And that's where people, you know, and those words and those affidavits become extremely powerful, because now they're part of that record as well. How is he going to rebut that he didn't hurt you when there's an affidavit right there, right? And the fact that it's your words, he can't be like, well, I'm going to contest that. How are you going to contest somebody's fact? So they become pretty much, you know, evidence towards their wrongdoing.
Yeah, I'm learning now, even down to the terminology, that is very important. Capitalization, not capitalization, the spelling, the words. You could really self-incriminate yourself. So a lot of people choose to use their Fifth Amendment because they don't want to say the wrong thing. You know, that's very important as well, that I'm learning. And I also learned from Jam about how to spell your name. I was like, all caps. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, let me, you know, correct this, because it's very important. It's, as much as we don't really understand or wasn't taught about that, it's very important with spelling and everything, even down to the mail. Like when I'm writing mail, I didn't know if you put brackets around your zip code that exempts you from the military, because we're not the military, correct? So it's like, why are we not doing these things, you know? So it's important that you guys are expressing this. So thank you.
No problem. The one point I want to drive home to everyone, right? If nobody else walks away from this with anything else, look up 1 USC 1. That is the definition of person. Keep in mind, and I think everybody knows this, the definitions can only be separated by commas as they're like kind, right? So if it was a new meaning, they would then have the semicolon. It would tell you, you know, it's either used as a verb or an adverb or whatever. But any term that means the same word is usually separated with a comma, because definitions are basically combined by like kind. And according to 1 USC 1, a definition of a person is an individual, a partnership, a corporation. These are separated by commas. So if you're in corporation, a partnership, you're a person. Every single executive order, DOH policy, emergency executive order from the mayor has been written for a person. How does that apply to the men and women? Last time I checked, I'm not a corporation. I don't think anybody on this platform is a corporation. Unless your name is actually filed with Department of State in New York as a sole proprietor and you have your own EIN, you're not a person.
Wow, I didn't know that.
It's the one point that Scott always drills home to us. He's like, if nothing else, he's like, look up 1 USC 1, and then you know what applies to you.
Yeah, we're definitely going to take a look into it. I mean, when we do, one of the things I want y'all to understand, when we do this, you know, we make the video for it and stuff like that. So I actually have to look and read and know what I'm editing to as well. I like to put it on and what's being seen. So if there's anything on this code that's out there, I would be quick to use it as a snippet.
Yeah. And the definition on a federal level is the definition on a state level and on a city level. And with DOH, under Title 10, a person is an individual, a corporation, a limited liability corporation, a partnership, or a combination thereof. None of them ever say men and women. But we've been indoctrinated through DOE that you're a person, right? They say a noun is a person, place, or a thing.
They come up with a specific word, and whether it's capital or whether it's lowercase and stuff like that, just numbers you kind of.
Well, yeah, I mean, the original form of government that was instilled by we the people pretty much became a corporation, which is then run by attorneys. So a lot of the words, the meanings of these words have been changed through legalese. That's the sad part.
That's one reason why you don't want to call yourself parents. You're not a pair that rents. You are the mother or father of that heir or son, daughter. So yeah, it gets deep.
I mean, terminology, you know, of parents, it just threw me off, especially in this time, because I've been taking things like that a little bit literal. Like, I don't even like using certain words anymore, just because like I understand like that word is kind of like it's the word. It's just like you using it and it got that power on you once you use it. But if you don't use it, it doesn't have that power. Because then if you don't say parent, like you said, and you say, if you come in there and say, oh, on this document, I don't want to put me as a parent, I want to put me as father. I mean, you could just the language of that it makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's a fact. Or using words as simple as hello or morning. It's just like we misuse that every day.
Absolutely.
And what's nice about being a part of the assembly is we have, when you join, we have an education page, and that thing is locked and stocked with knowledge from everything from what Andrea mentioned to US codes to just understanding your personal rights, definitions, the language, just so many things. We have like just stuffed full, hundreds and hundreds of articles and documents and PDFs and just education from about all different agencies in the city. So there's a lot of perks of becoming a member because you get this more one-on-one education and knowledge. And there's so many people within the counties that are dealing with so many different things within the city. Like Bronx County, for example, is focusing on the Department of Ed. Other counties want to focus on the Department of Health. So you get all of that hands-on knowledge a lot faster, you know, because this education is a lifetime's worth of education. And it's hard sometimes to just sit down by yourself and to look up these individual things and try to grasp them. But when you have a community of people that have kind of started that knowledge or maybe are still on the same level as you can kind of all riff off each other and learn. And that's a beautiful thing. So when you go to newyorkdejure.info/join and you fill out the questionnaire, you get linked up with your county. And then from there, you start the steps so that you can join those education pages and you can join those committees and you can start to learn things on a more one-on-one intimate basis.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, there are no membership fees. No one is obligated to anything. We do have Cash App handles and you know, gratefully accept any donations. But you know, we're not charging for any of this information that's being provided. We want as many people as possible to get educated, because if you were like me, who was completely disinterested in government, anything having to do with the judicial system, politics, I mean, when you come on here, it can be more simplified and it can be broken down in ways that you will understand, because the way one person breaks it down would be different from the way the next person breaks it down, and then that's when you get it. So me, I like to simplify things. As y'all see, I kind of like break it down in a way that's a little bit more just digestible. So, you know, I learn differently than most people. So when I explain things, I explain it the way I will get it. And we even created a welcome package too that has direct, like a basics 101 with direct links showing you how, you know, we are from the creator as man and women. After man and women is what created everything else, including government, lawyers, judges, teachers, farmers, all these other titles. When you take out the title, it's just simply a man or woman. So that's what we're teaching with contracting or putting on notice these men and women who took an oath to the Constitution. And with that, I land.
That was elite. That's elite right there. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I give props to Teneri. Teneri actually went through our education chat. I'm not sure how long she was on there, but she looked through everything, and she's the one that puts together the welcome packet. We're just making sure that the right wording is used on it, and once it is, we can put it out to the men and women of New York. But because our education chat has tens of thousands of different tidbits of information, codes, links, screenshots, proof of how their system is not working for us the way it's supposed to be. I know a few people always ask, like, should we go to lawyers? Why didn't my lawyer fight harder for me? I'm like, because that's not their job. It's not their job to fight for you. Their first job is loyalty to the court. It's in their rules. And we provide them the actual, link to the rule, and they can read it, and then they come back, they're like, oh, shoot. Yeah, that's why you're more powerful when you take action against them, even if you have to walk into their courtroom, because you're not in that club. You don't have to play by their rules. You don't have to bow down to that judge or justice and say, yes, ma'am, I'm going to do what you want. Nah, you can stand up and say, nah, you work for me. You're supposed to be impartial. Now, if you can't be because I don't belong to your club, move over. We've had people on the assembly that have, shot down custody cases over jurisdiction. We've had, people be able to go to their, their sons or daughters or their prodigies, schools without having a white card. So, we have people that, like Teneri said, our assembly has a sliding scale of people that know this knowledge. So, we have beginners, we have people that have been doing this for years, we have people that have been doing this for decades. And I'm going to let you know right now, you could be doing this for 30 years and you're still going to learn something new. You're still going to learn something new. So if you're just coming into this and think I'm not sure how I'm going to fit in because I don't know what they know. We were all in that boat at one point of, I have no idea what this is about, but I'm clicking with it because whatever we had before just wasn't working. And when you keep doing the same thing over and over and hoping for a different result, that's the definition of insanity. And whatever they were doing before was not working. And I don't want to be labeled as insane anymore.
Is everyone here?
Yep, we're here.
All right, good. Are we going to move on to the next question, or are we still on this? Because I know it spilled over, but it's very necessary. So thank you.
No problem. You can move on. You can move to the next question.
All right, go ahead, Design. I know you had some questions about the case. I know you said a few things about it already, so I didn't want to be repetitive, but you guys want to just explain the case and get to the meat of it, because we want people to know what exactly has the mayor done wrong to be put in this situation, and not look like, well, we're the bad guys, we're crazy and all this stuff. No, this is actually what we're supposed to be doing as a people.
Right. Well, the New York City Charter is over 4,000 pages. I don't expect anybody else to read it from front to back. Luckily, it's a searchable document. But basically, as an assembly, we're forced to know their jobs better than they do. So on a city level, we actually had to read it because that's how we knew which box to push them back into. With the mayor, he took his oath of office January 1st, 2022, right after the ball dropped. And then literally the morning of, he went and extended Balasio's mandates. Right there, he broke his oath of office. Because he literally said, you know, he's going to swear and support to uphold the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, the state constitution, and the city charter. So we had to look into what his box is for the city charter, see what authority he actually had. Now, the mayor, right, according to the city charter, can pretty much, he actually has a lot of power, unfortunately. We're looking into ways to kind of downgrade that a bit, but because it just, when you read what he's allowed to do, it kind of pulls you want to pull your hair out. You're like, when did we ever give you that much power? Like, you look at it and you're like, who wrote this? You know, because it wasn't us. Because I know I would never allow him to do that much work, that much power. So we had to see exactly which box we needed to put him into for the city charter and see what he violated on a state level and on a federal level with the constitutions that he swore to uphold, right? So he won't trample our rights. Then we had to compare that to his emergency executive orders, and we realized that by him continuing the mask mandates and the key to the city, he broke quite a few. So we contracted his oath of office, right? Because apparently that's when they came back and said, due to COVID, they get an extension on how long they get to file. We're like, nah, that's not how it works. But on a state level, there's this very, very hidden public officers law. Public Officers Law 15 says whether or not you filed your oath of office and or your surety bond, right, within the required time, they can overlook it as long as you stay in your box. If you don't and you go outside of your box, right, you can be personally held liable. It says it in the Public Officers Law. So that was Gem 1 we found. Gem 2 we found in the city charter was the summer inquiry, where basically 5 men and women of New York City can go and basically have a Supreme Court justice in 3 out of the 5 counties and review whether or not that public official, employee, or agency has violated their duty and how. So we did our notices to the mayor, which we CC'd to the DAs, the corporate counsel, to the AG, name it, anybody with the potential for enforcement got a copy. So finally, after our final notice, we were like, all right, that's it. We're done, but we need to make sure we can get to the next step so that it can be enforced in New York City. And based on every enforcement agency, the one thing that became clear was that they enforce whatever the court rules. So like, all right. And a summary inquiry is a judicial review of whether or not they violated their duty and how. So that's the beauty of it. So we took 6 of us actually went, used our legal names, and filed within the Supreme Court in New York a summary inquiry against Eric Adams and Alvin Bragg, the DA in Manhattan, for violating their duty. Alvin Bragg, because he violated his oath of office and overstepped it. Correction, he overjumped it. And Alvin Bragg, because under the federal codes and even in the city charter, it states that once he becomes aware of a crime, he has to investigate and hold them and enforce the law. He kind of dropped the ball on that. So we made sure he was also labeled because he violated his duty by not following the federal code 18 USC 4. And according to the city charter as well, because like I said, if he becomes aware of a crime, he's supposed to act on it. So we filed our papers for that. And pretty much the same day we were assigned a justice. And once they read what we filed, now they're scrambling. They've admitted that this is a novel thing. They need more time to figure out how to even defend it. And we're sitting here, we're like, because you can't. You could take up to the next 10 years and you're still not going to come up with a valid response or defense as to why he did what he did. Because if they claim it was for public health, That doesn't count because we're not the public. We're men and women. So that doesn't work. And that's also outside of his authority. So then he violated, something else along that lines. So no matter what claim they're going to try and come up with, everything's already proven that he shouldn't be in there. So now they're scrambling. And we're pushing back because of the fact that they have no clue how to defend the mayor and the DA on this because they know they dropped the ball.
AKA, y'all got them in a chokehold. All right, okay.
Yeah, and they don't even understand the language either, which is amazing because they said multiple times like is a lawsuit, like they called it a lawsuit, and we had to correct them. So
Yeah.
It's just wild. Like these are the people that people seek out to help them when they have harms and when they have been violated, and they don't even understand their own system. We know it better than they do, and that's the ultimate goal. And then for people who like doubt the notices that we do, people like, oh, well, they're not doing anything. Why it's just you guys are just pushing papers. Like, if we didn't file all of those notices against Adams or against any public official, we wouldn't have been able to do the proper paperwork to file the summary inquiry. So it's our evidence, along with the affidavit. It's absolutely necessary to do this process, this administrative process, because there's no other way in New York to hold them accountable if men and women actually want to like regain their rights and do things the right way. So, we get a lot of haters and doubters and people, some people just don't want to do the work, but we're going to be successful ultimately. And I feel we already are. We've already gone so far in the 2 years that I've been with the assembly. Like the things that we've accomplished is amazing. It's changed my whole life. So I know we're only going to learn more and do better from here. And, we're going to make sure they go back in their box at the end of the day. It's a hire and fire system. So you don't do your job, we're going to fire you.
Amen. That is the answer to all of our prayers. So you are winning, we are winning, and we're all doing our part to do so. So all we have to do is just keep on spreading the word and bringing it to the people's attention, especially the youth. And that's exactly what we're doing. So we're on the right path. You guys are amazing to even take the time out, day in and day out, hours, no sleep, to fight this battle.
I love that you said.
Yeah, the youth is definitely.
I love that you said. I only want to say one thing. I love that you said we know the Constitution better than them. I think that just made me feel so good because it's just like the main thing that y'all are saying is that God and man and woman, and them having imperfections is just proving the point. You're just proving the point just with that one sentence. Sorry, somebody else was trying to say something right before me.
Yeah, sorry. I wanted to piggyback, regarding the youth and why they're so important. Like I said, they're going to be the future generations after us because they're before the whole Rockefeller indoctrination and DOE and all that wonderful stuff. New York did have committees of safety. They did have an assembly, right? In the 1800s, New York had a de jure assembly, aside from Albany's assembly, right? And they were able to get them to cave. But at that time, the de jure assembly basically shut down all money going to Albany and gave him an ultimatum and said, you have with no money, you can't fund the militia and you can't pay the assembly members. You need us, which means you need and the only way we're going to start paying again, right, is if you start listening. And finally, Albany caved to the de jure in the 1800s for that. But the way that they have the system set up now, right, I'm not sure if we're going to get 13 million people all of a sudden just stop funding Albany. They're going to be like, what if I get audited? That's going to be one of their biggest fears half the time. So, but what we're doing is not necessarily new, but to this day and age it is. That's why it seems so far and so radical. And a lot of people are like, oh, you're just, pushing your own ideologies. You all are anti-vaxxers. And I keep telling people, I'm like, no, I'm not. I personally don't want to take this shot, but if you read all the information that's provided to you and you still want to line up and put your arm out, God bless you. Godspeed, that's your decision. But don't turn around then and say, I got it, nothing happened, stick your arm out. We're going to have problems, That's where it stops. You know, like I literally tell people.
It's the language for me. I mean, I'm just getting tired of the language for me. It's two things I don't want to hear anymore from people. I don't want to hear conspiracy theorists no more. We need to spin that, change that, change that name to something else. Too many conspiracies came true. And then the anti-vaxxer thing, come on, man. Do we are we still doing this?
Yeah,
All this
they are.
information that's coming out, man. YouTube is only getting like 5% of the information. And you can go on YouTube now and go get with the right doctor on YouTube, and he's cutting the edge on YouTube. He's cutting the edge so hard, but he's still getting that data out there. He's still getting the Australian data out there. He's still getting all this good data out there, and he's right cutting the edge. He's barely able to even do it. You go to Rumble, forget it. So
Look at it this way: we put Cuomo on notice before he stepped down, right? Our notices actually got to the point where we actually did a notice of removal and sent it to the White House and to the Attorney General of the U.S. 2 weeks after our notices went to the White House and the Attorney General, all of a sudden Letitia James comes out. Nursing home deaths underreported. Oh, you just realized that? The light bulb just went off? We've been telling you this for how many months now? But that happened. Cuomo, up until he stepped down, was screaming, yelling, I'm not going to step down. They can't make me step down. I'm not leaving this office until, I get, there's actually, they can prove it. We all heard it. He was so confident in his press conferences. I'm not stepping down. They have nothing. All they have is claims. We sent Cuomo our last default notice. Literally, what was it? Not even a week later, he comes out on TV and says, I'm stepping down. Because he knew that if we continued and followed through, he would never be able to run for another office again. Because once you're removed from office, you can never run for an office again. And now he's like, I want to be AG. I'm like, you? Nah. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen. But, people are like, oh, well, it could be a coincidence. But the timeline, between our notices and the reactions, and then all of a sudden, the information came out about the nursing home deaths and how they were underreported and how, they were like, and then they came out with the excuse, oh, we didn't report it as much because we didn't want the public to freak out. What, that you were killing people? People were freaking out already because they were right by their loved ones watching them die. We've had people literally straight up come up on our calls and say, my grandmother was in there. They had her on a morphine drip and they forgot to feed her for like 2 days. Oh, okay. During the shutdown, there were times when I didn't sleep for weeks at a time on the phone with CEOs of hospitals threatening them because I've had friends come to me and say, my father just got admitted. They're saying he's COVID. They stopped his treatment. He basically got no IV, no fluids, nothing. And they have him in an isolation room. It's now been 48 hours. They're not letting us see him. We know he's not getting food. We know he's not getting, medication. And we don't know what to do. And I'm like, what hospital is he at? And I'd be on the phone with the CEO. I'd be like, you do realize that you're still open to malpractice and you're still liable should anything happen to that patient. And you cannot force them into the Redmisphere trial if they do not wish to. You cannot fear them into it. And the only way that immunity blankets your hospital for the death of somebody with COVID is if they're in the trial. Now, since they're not in the trial, unless you plan on forging documents, and we have records stating that they've been denied, so it's going to be forged documents at this point, we will, just know your hospital might be owned by one of your patients, offsprings. 24 hours later, they'd be like, they're like, he's getting treatment. What'd you do? I'm like, I just had a chat with the CEO.
it's interesting to me that they won't admit, how well you can see it. If you take a look, you can see what's going on. But it's interesting that they wouldn't admit these things. I feel like honestly, if you was to type up on the dictionary and type up pride, you would see Como pop up. 'Cause he's just so proud of himself. He's just so prideful. But it's just like you gotta admit, what really happened. Yeah, you silently decided to, leave the courtroom, but I feel like y'all deserve y'all credit, applying all that pressure to making him actually have to do that, because like you said, I didn't think he was, honestly, I didn't think he was leaving until he got caught with like raping like 20 girls or something like that, or something crazy happened. I didn't think he was going to leave unless he got caught with something so bad that it's just like, I gotta leave. Like, I don't know.
I mean, Cuomo, was bad enough. It's like prior to when we had the measles outbreak, right? He's the one that pushed the agenda for the religious exemption repeal. Basically, I'm not sure if it was before that or right after that. I think it was before that. They actually did an evaluation, and they straight up told him that New York was not prepared for any type of outbreak. Like, when they're like, you don't have the facilities you need, and you're not prepared. Should you have like a sudden outbreak of flu, it could devastate New York, right? After the evaluation, he still went ahead and filed for the Medicaid waiver on a federal level to close down hospitals in minority neighborhoods and to open up more primary care facilities. Now, when COVID first hit, what was the first thing that they closed? Primary care facilities. And then people are like, but the hospitals are getting overwhelmed. Well, when you shut down hospitals, that's what's going to happen, right? You funnel everything to one location, regardless whether it's a hospital, whether it's a water balloon, it's going to get overwhelmed. So when you give him like all the stuff he did prior and then what happened afterwards, it's like you do realize that not all majority of the people that passed away shouldn't have.
Saying the good thing is that, a group of us got together, decided to, about 3 years ago or so, Jam, you can help me out with that, get together and form this, New York dejure assembly that has been very successful thus far. And we don't plan on stopping. We plan on we're going to keep this going. There's definitely, has there been interference or things trying to block, our way? Absolutely. That's why we have a great vetting system, kind of keep the infiltrators out. And, we have a great group of like-minded individuals that are on a mission to get this done, at whatever capacity that, each and every one of us can contribute. But that's why we need more hands on deck, because like Andrea was saying, when it comes to like even Chromo, we can do this for every single public servant, borough president, 3-letter agencies that are causing harm. But with the amount of hands on deck that we have right now, is only but for so much we can do. You know what I mean? So
Taneri, you're breaking up.
Oh, I'm in the same spot. That is so odd.
Because you're dropping truth.
I'm in the matrix, just like
It's
Clubhouse.
all right.
But yeah, King and Miss Monroe and Royalty, like, we just want to like really, give y'all flowers, because like y'all said, they're quick to throw out that word conspiracy theory or theorist. And, that goes back to, part of how we even kind of got here in the first place. Andrea was breaking down earlier the whole fear and everything like that. But a lot of it really has to do with that. Some of us were already in the loop, back in the Philadelphia project, or the Montauk, the Philadelphia experiment and the Montauk project. For other people, it took the 9/11. Other people, it took the 2020 circumstances. And then other people, it took the rigged elections. So, everyone is in different places of growth and development when it comes to the awareness of what's the reality around us. And we just got to be patient with one another, without that judgment. Leave that judgment behind, because we were all there once upon a time. And We're just looking for people that are ready to run right now, though. That's the thing. Where are the runners? Like, I came back to New York this year. Luckily, I came across the dejure. But let me tell you, I've been away from New York about 7 years or so, and I don't remember New York being like bowing down like this. I remember New York shutting blocks down, highways down before I left, schools down. Let the mothers and fathers find out these schools have asbestos or lead in it. It was a wrap. But something had came along the way, and I think that very word there, King, that you dropped, may have a little something to do with it. All of this programming is wild. But like I said, if we can nip it in New York, then we can nip it anywhere. And with that, I land.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
So,
Thank you so much.
So
thank you for the flowers. Though we appreciate it.
yeah, we definitely appreciate it. Trust me, I've been called a conspiracy theorist since 2006, so I know exactly what you mean.
I just think now another thing that's important about this too as well is main reason that all these issues happen is I think outside of the lower self and the people with the higher powers and stuff like that, yeah, that is a problem, but we are also have accountability to take because being so good at being separatists is the issue because there is no people. If there's no people standing with each other, supporting each other in whatever they're doing, each other and doing the positive things, let me say uplifting things and things like for freedom and stuff like that. If it's no support system there, and one person can't stand and be a building, or one person can't be a crowd, one person can't build a whole system. Like you said, men and women, they can build a system together. It can't be one person. It can't be two people. A small group of people can get a lot done, but then the rest of the support has to come in from the community then. So
Because it makes it easier for them to be infiltrated. Yeah.
it's important that people start. The reason that this has been happening is because we haven't cared for each other enough. We, you know what? Maybe we have cared for each other, but maybe we only care for our little small circle of friends or something like that. Maybe we only care for like our family. Now it's time to put people out there too.
Right. So really quickly, going back to what Taneri said, tell people about the patience and tenacity it takes to lawfully reach the Supreme Court.
Well, one thing's for sure is that you're gonna go building the building a couple of times. You're gonna probably end up at FedEx printing over 160 documents.
You better like stairs. You really should like stairs. We did a lot of stairs.
You
better be into cardio. We got that cardio in.
I just went through that, the whole FedEx and printing out these 160 pages to each corporation, and they make you go on a merry-go-round, so you do have to have patience. I do know that. So
it's a new workout plan.
It's crazy because I thought I was the only one that'd be threatening them, like, oh, this hospital's gonna be named after me if y'all don't get this right. I thought I was the only one that did that. So no, I know I'm not crazy.
They want you to think you're crazy so that you back off. They want you to start doubting what you can do so that you back off. They try to throw roadblocks in front of you where you start pulling your hair off. They want you to lose your cool at the courthouse. I mean, we've pretty much have split the allegiance down the center, even at the courthouse itself. We have clerks that are fighting for us, and then we have clerks that are trying to hinder us. And we've seen it firsthand. Like, it's split down the middle with just a summary inquiry, like just holding them accountable, And they're like, why aren't you letting them do X, Y, and Z? And the woman's like, because, they still have time. And they'll be arguing right in front of us. And I'm like, okay, so yes, no, maybe so. And you got to keep calm. Meanwhile, inside, in the back of your head, you're like, I just want to punch this person. But, you got to remain calm. You got to breathe and, just pretend that,
That's the hardest thing to do.
Exactly. You're like, because and the messed up part is you can't get anywhere on the phone or online, so you have to go down there. And then they'll look at you, like it's getting to the point where the security guards at the Supreme Court are like, so you guys are going for lunch? Where are you going? Like, are we really here that often? You know? I think the last time we were there, they didn't even say anything about us like taking pictures and recording.
Yeah, like we might as well clock in with them, do a whole shift.
Right.
But it does take patience and the due diligence and just, being humorous too while you at it. Like Jeannie is real good with that. Thank goodness for her. My goodness, she's great. Joy and all of the little just jokes that's thrown in between. We have a pie maker that we've met over there. We call her the pie maker. It's different things like that. So it's even down to the one of the sheriffs. He's we have a helper. Like, so it's just different things like that you gotta kind of implement in order to get some kind of a push, motivation, drive, because it is pretty wild. Like when you go and firsthand see how much they don't know of their own duties is wild. And it's been allowed to get to this extent, to the point where it's really affecting our livelihood and our sons and daughters' livelihood. If it's like this, that uncomfortable now, how is it gonna be for your grandkids? Like we not trying to get there with it. You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely not. We're nipping it in the butt from now.
And you got to understand, like, for those of us that have ever been bullied, whether it be at home, in school, your peers, the government is the biggest bully you're ever going to encounter in your whole life. So if you can rise above that, if you can learn, sticks and stones, right? If you can learn how to use your knowledge against that biggest bully you're ever going to encounter, you're unstoppable. No one is ever going to come into your path that you can't face. And that's what I'm starting to realize. Like, I came from bullying, like, throughout my childhood. And I realized the government is the biggest bully that I'm ever going to deal with. I really see that between enforcement and policy and just the complete disrespect for men and women that they're supposed to have and the job that they're supposed to do that they're not doing. If I could get through this properly and armed with knowledge and armed with the right remedies, no one's gonna stop me after that. No one's gonna come in my path that I'm gonna be intimidated or scared or not know how to approach.
Yeah, the disrespect for God is unexplainable, because
It's disgusting. Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? While many of us see our creator as God, right? We try to get people to understand that no mere mortal can give you your natural rights, right? Some of you may call it God, some of you may call it the creator. We want to, like, the fact that you stand up for your own natural rights works for any and every and even non-believers. That's the beauty of it, because they're your rights. You got them the minute you took your first breath out in the world. That's it. The government didn't give that to you. The concept, piece of paper didn't give that to you. You got that the minute you were you. I shouldn't even say you, because now I have Scott in the back of my head. I feel like saying ye. Sorry, Scott is our master vocabulist. That's how I call him, because he reminds us of all the ways that our vocabulary has been perverted by the system. So whenever I say you, he's like, well, you is synonymous with IOU. So now when I say it, it's just in the back of my head. So
Right.
So now that when we go to rallies, I'm sitting there and I'll listen to people give speeches, and in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, that can work. Ooh, no. I feel like I should, I'm like, somebody should have edited that.
So
But
you feel like you got to be very careful with your language, basically, right?
yeah. I mean, if anybody would like to make NYPD extremely uncomfortable, feel free to borrow my son. He's been listening to a lot of our calls. He's been listening to a lot of our doc calls. He's homeschooled, so of course he's getting extra bit of knowledge. But to give you an example of how he makes NYPD uncomfortable. We were walking through the park one night, and there was about 6 uniforms in the park. And of course, my son, being from Brooklyn, Bushwick born, has that extremely powerful voice that carries, unlike me. And he turned to me straight up and goes, "Mom, I know there's no such thing as law enforcement in New York. So when they close the park at 10, is that a law or is that a policy that they're enforcing?" So, while you're walking by 6 uniforms who all look at you at the same time, wondering what you're going to respond to this 10-year-old child. So now it turns into an education for everyone. So
Good.
he's like, he's the type of kid that'll be like outside on the stoop. He'll see the cop cars with the lights on and goes, "Look, Mom, it's the Chihuahua police." And I'm like, and your voice carries.
Wow. That's really good. That's exactly why we need to continue teaching our children these things. All right, let's go into depth then. So for the people, what's the difference between mandatory and mandate?
Definition, and I think Ray raised this. The definition for mandate is it's voluntary. It really can't mandate anything. And going back to the definition of a person, everything that's been mandated or made mandatory has been for a person. However, and I'm gonna be blunt with everyone. Throughout the whole COVID lockdown, we saw many cases go to court challenging the V mandate. And every one of them being shut down where the courts came back and said there is no V mandate. Because there wasn't. One, it's not that product. It's not, that name cannot be used for that product. So once again, they're just using that terminology is because it's something people can correlate their previous knowledge of. So they're going on, with what people just automatically associate. It's an association game. It's like, okay, so people associate the V word with, childhood illnesses and, potentially, keeping grandma alive. So they just go by word association. So that's why they called it that, even though they shouldn't, because it never met the federal definitions for it. So you had that. On top of that, it wasn't really a mandate because you had a federal right of refusal. It was an EUA product, and you had the right to refuse it, where they couldn't, give you consequences for it. But not many people knew that. So people were going into courts, the lawyers kept losing, and they're like, why is it that, it says right here, it's mandate. And it's like, but they can't mandate something that's EUA. You have a right of refusal. So even if they tell you that you need to get it, you can decline. And that's what the courts were not telling people. Like, they weren't telling you why there was no mandate. They weren't telling you how you can get around it, because that's not their job. That's not their job. Their job is not in any shape or form to inform the men and women of what their rights are. Same thing with lawyers. All their job is to make sure that they're good with the courts and to make sure that their retainer is paid and that their bills are paid. So, and we kept realizing this. So when we worded our documents, we made sure that we also, in our notices, we made sure we CC'd the courts as well. And I'm sure everybody's heard about the PBA case where the Supreme Court actually came back and said Department of Health overstepped its authority by unilaterally changing the conditions of employment.
Right.
Interesting choice of words, because most of our documents were like, outside of your authority, you have no authority. And it's true. Department of Health, especially in New York City, they have no right to tell your employer what they can and cannot do to keep you employed. That was completely outside of their authority. And, we kept telling people that, like, when they were like, well, my job's making me do this. Was that part of your original contract? No. They can't, unless there's a clause in your HR contract on the bottom that says that the terms of your contract can be changed at any point in time without your knowledge or approval. They can't do that. They can't. They can't just change your contract halfway into your employment without you actually consenting to it. And if you're not going to consent to it, then it's on them.
Right. That's what it's about. Okay, so I know we're on a time limit, and I wanted to do Q&A, but there was people in the room. But shout out to Dan, shout outs to Jeannie, right? And shout outs to everyone that's going to be on the check-in on this video. And I hope that you guys really, really grasp this and do your own research and go to New York dejure website and read over everything, review everything. You can pull from different resources if you want to double check, pull out the Bible, cross-reference, whatever you got to do. Just please do your own research.
Definitely, we always encourage people to do their research. Like even with our templates, we try to break it down to the best that we can, but we try to tell people, don't take our word for it. Look it up. Our templates have the codes on there that they're in violation of and why, right? But you can also, look it up yourself. Go read it. See that they meet the same criteria. Look up the case law that we cited. Don't just assume that doc committee that spent 6 hours on a Zoom call, did all the research. Maybe the men and women, while going through this and looking through it, we've had people come back and say, I found something. Well, that's awesome, because you can only do so much in 6 hours. So if you found something, let us know. Email it to us, DM it to us. We'll look into it, right? So, but definitely, yeah. Use our templates as a springboard in a way, starting point. The oath of office contract. Look it up. We have one on there for state, for city, for agencies. So, you can look it up, because the one we created, the latest one we created, especially for New York City, we actually go into it where we describe and define the terms of why an oath of office is a contract and which part of it mean what and what happens if they break it. So we try to make it as, informative as we can, but we also do encourage everyone that looks at any one of our documents, whether it's the ones that we already have on the website that we sent out, because we try to make sure that everything is transparent as possible. So any notices we've already sent out, whether it's the previous governors, previous mayors, previous 3-letter agencies, that we try to make sure that they're up on the website. And with that, I yield.
Yeah, we definitely encourage due diligence, doing your own research, doing your own, looking up this code and this case law and this definition, because that's how you're going to retain and obtain information, like where you're like absorbing it versus just regurgitating what somebody else said. And this is also how there's a deep level of mistrust and distrust within the communities, right? Especially the brown and copper community. And a lot of that has to do with just simply not doing the due diligence. That's why you're quick to claim scam, or, I'm being misinformed, or, even that other word that King dropped, conspiracy theorists, the list goes on, is because the due diligence, the self-research is not being done. And we encourage that. If anything, we welcome that. And if you do find any flaws, please, let's come together collectively and address that. Let's do a build of substance so that we can, be one another's strengths and, pick up on one another's weaknesses. There's no more room and time for the whole, going back and forth, and like we need to now seriously get arm to arm with it. But I do have to head out, you guys. I appreciate you guys having me. Hopefully this does help with just getting more people arm in arm with it, because it's just like one of those things where how much more uncomfortable does it need to get before we do something, of action here. And we can't have it no more laid out than the way we do. If you go to our website and you check out that one tab of templates, oh my goodness, everything is laid out, from the affidavit of harm or truth, the foil. We even have a video. Goodness, there's an all-out video clip and everything on what a foil even is and how to get that situated, how to even when it comes to getting the oath of office that these people took, or the persons took. They have to fill out this form, the SP, I don't know, Andrea, help me out with that form, where they have a certain amount of time to even get that filled out. Like, how many of us knew if that wasn't completed by that X amount of time, they automatically in default. So it's just little stuff like this that once we get in the loop about that, we get in the loop of that game, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. The power is all within us. We don't have no more fear on these 3-letter agencies. Oh my gosh, they're gonna take my child away. I homeschool, and I don't want to, subject my child to an experimental procedure. Like, oh my gosh, my fear about the DOE, something like whatever. Like, there's no more of that. We empower one another, and now we get in the loop, and now they start diminishing their power and getting back in their box and reminding them, listen, wait a minute, this is what you took an oath to do, and these are the duties. XYZ are the duties. Where does it state that within those duties you have the authority to dictate XYZ, whatever that situation is? So we thank you guys again for having us. I land.
Thank you, Taneri. Really
Just to,
appreciate you.
just to touch on what the two ladies were sharing, you can get started at any point. You don't have to be a member, even though we would love anyone to join and be a member to really be a part of this process. But all of our information is free. It will always be free. Everyone that is a part of the assembly volunteers their time. You give your 100%, whatever that is for you, and go on our website, dejure.info, browse, take a look at our notices, read the ones that we've submitted to the public servants, take notes, research the laws that we write down in our notices. Go to our link tree, which you can find on our social media on Instagram or Telegram. We have a ton of links on there too that link us to all of our social media, which include a lot of interviews we've done over the past few years. We have a public link every Thursday at 8 p.m. that's free and open to the public. Anyone from all around the world can hop on that call and see what New York is up to and the work that we're doing and how you can be a part of it. That's where I learned a lot of my knowledge when I first started. I hopped on the Thursday calls at 8 o'clock every Thursday. And I listened and I listened and I listened, and things started to click, and I started to hear the same things over and over again. So I researched them, and I was like, okay, all the things that I've been feeling now, I actually see that there's facts related to them, and it's education now I can learn to what I feel is in my soul. That's the right thing. So just start immersing yourself in this knowledge, and go at your own pace, but also reach out to the community that's already been doing the work. Reach out to New York Du Jour and join and become a part of this process, because once you start doing this, there's no looking back. Once you start to really gain this knowledge and learn the language, you're never gonna look at things the same again. Whether it be what you hear on the news, you hear the things coming out of these politicians. Now your life will forever be changed, and in a good way. So please, I encourage everybody, please get started with this, and let's restore New York.
Thank you,
Mic
Jan.
check. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. So I just wanted to add on to literally everything that was being said. I was driving through the mountains, so it definitely is the Lord allowed me to listen to that. Like, everything is just incredible. I agree with everything that's being said, and I definitely one du jour. I didn't become a member right away. I didn't. And every call that I got on, just like Jam, every call that I got on, every Thursday, and it must have been for months before I officially joined. But it's like Jam said, we can relate to it, on the assembly. Things started to click because there were certain things that I was learning about. I was on Telegram and I was digging deep into those rabbit holes and I was learning certain things, way before, I got to the assembly and things started clicking. Once I got to dejure, it's not that, there was this 10-point PowerPoint presentation and, that they have these books and they have all these things. You're listening in and you're from deep within you, you're becoming empowered. There's partial research that I've done. I know I can do way more research, than I have done. And just listening in allowed me to find that voice that's deep in me to speak. Because, a lot of you have seen me speak at rallies and I get told how powerful I am. Oh, you're amazing in your words. Oh, you're so strong. And it's like, now I'm digging deeper. Now I'm finding more. Now I'm getting, the light that was always in there to shine even brighter. So now when I do come out and I speak and I do open my mouth and I say something powerful, is coming from just being empowered from listening. We have 2 ears to listen and 1 mouth to speak. And all of those months that I sat listening, empowered me. And I have, people coming up to me and saying, wow, you're so good at this. And, I don't have the time to do it. Just listen. Just listen. It doesn't happen overnight. And we do have to do our due diligence to educate ourselves and go back and double check and backtrack and learn it for ourselves. We're not going to take dejure to be the end all be all, the end, and that's it. It's their word and that's it. You have to feel that in yourself and you have to have the empowerment in yourself. It's not just going to come from someone else saying it and then you just regurgitate it or parrot it and repeat it like what the government has been doing. Because that's how mind control happens. You need to learn it yourself. And that's even why, hey, I see it as this is free. There's no need to charge for empowerment. There's no need to charge when it's time to educate yourself and empower yourself. What's the need in that? There is nothing that we gain out of this except for seeing others standing up for themselves, others being able to say, you know what, you did wrong to me and I'm going to defend myself. Jam said it best earlier and I couldn't, again, add on to it because of the service here, but bullying, oh my God, all my life in school, all my life, even as an adult, when it came to my son, bullied, harassed, abused, traumatized. And here comes now, all of that I've suffered through, I'll say for half my life, more than half my life, I can now have myself and stand up for myself. And that did not come from buying books, because, dejure says so. They encourage education. They tell everyone, we are an educational platform. We are here to educate you because we want you to do what we're doing. They want you to do what they're doing. They want you to be self-aware and self-empowered. Allow anyone to walk all over you. Do not be bullied. Do not be tormented and harassed because that's what we dealt with. And I honestly, I thank God that this happened the last 2 years, the last 3 years. I'm glad it happened. It needed to happen. And, hopefully something else more traumatic up, but what happens and however it has to happen, especially in our community, whether it's the Hispanic community, the Black community, all these, it needs to happen because far too long have we been bullied and harassed. The people have been bullied and harassed, no matter who it is. And it's time for it to stop. And we're talking, conspiracy theory, that word, that alone was government operated and implemented to harass and bully you into fear to never question anything. Well, you should question everything. That is what you are supposed to do. You listen to what's going on and you question it. If it don't sound right, you're supposed to question it. That is the greatest thing. That is literally the basic step to critical thinking, questioning everything. And what they're doing is taking that away from the people because they're letting their word be the end all. They're no bigger or no bigger than us. We all bleed, we all breathe, we all need nutrients to survive. They're no greater than us. And if they're not allowing us to question things, that lets you know you need to question things. De jure is very empowering. I can say that myself, all that I've been through. It has been an honor and a blessing to be a part of this, because this is history in the making. We are creating a better life, a better world. Our children, children's children. I think that was part of that first speech that I did, August 9th, 2021. Never forget that date, because that's when God started working. I said that I wanted a better life for my children and my children's children. So when my grandkids are sitting on my lap, they know, oh, grandma stood up for my rights. Grandma made sure that I had what I needed, because my son questioned me. My son asked me, why do you keep going to these rallies? You keep going out to these rallies. And I told him, it's because of you. It's for your kids and your kids' kids. You need to live in the land of the free. You need it. It doesn't start with the government does not give that to you. And it's up to the people to stand up and say, no is no. So I just wanted to add that in. I have like the best service now as I'm on the road here. And it's something's got to give. Something's got to give. And I don't know how much more it can be said or how much evidence can be put, but it's out there. De jure is transparent. It's an open book. You could see what's being done. That's what I did. I saw what was being done for months. I saw what was happening. And I said, I want to be a part of that. And I became a part of that. And now we're doing things greater than anyone could have ever thought we'd be able to do. And I'm proud of every single man and woman that I've encountered in this last year, 2 years, especially in the last 6 months, that have decided it's not about me, it's about the future. And I'm going to take up that helm and we're going to do this battle. And it is a battle. It is exhausting. It's nights without sleep. It's days without eating. Sometimes it's days without even looking at yourself in the mirror, because you're on go, because you know the importance of the mission. It is a mission and it's going forward. And I'm proud to be a part of it. Really am. And I thank God for everyone. I pray for everyone every night. I pray for strength. I pray for wisdom. I pray for guidance, because this is not easy. We're entering into the belly, one of the deepest and darkest places that we could go is New York City in particular, because it is the heart of the world. And if we think of vocabulary, we think of semantics, and where language originates and the origins of words, when you think of the word world, and I learned this listening to a very prominent man who preached, he taught, he educated. World stands in Greek is cosmos, and cosmos is systems. So when you're told to go out in the world and change the world, it's time to change the systems. It's time to dismantle the systems. And all the systems that we have, the education system, the health system, entertainment, the government, all of these things need to be infiltrated and changed. And it's time for us to do that. And that's what we're doing. And I'm proud of that.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you so much. Thank you a million times. Thank you for everything. Shout outs to New York
You're
Freedom
absolutely
Rally.
welcome. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying shout outs to New York Freedom Rally, because it brought us together, really.
Yeah, definitely shout out to New York Freedom Rally for sure.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Design and Roy, I wouldn't have known who you all are.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, the rallies have a benefit too. I know it's a lot of people get tired of doing them, but it's a perfect opportunity to network, meet like-minded people, realize you're not alone. That's what's so important. Realize you're not alone in this fight. And then from there, you can start to get the work done, with groups like the De Jure and all these other people who got boots on the ground right now and are really doing things to save New York. And everyone's a blessing. Everyone's a blessing. And for you guys providing a platform for education, you guys are a blessing as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. It's all about putting it together, and that's something that people don't be realizing about rallies. Rallies is not, people be thinking some magic thing is going to happen in the snap of a finger from, and the rally is a seed. Is there any more questions that we asking here, y'all?
Roy's gonna ask the last two questions, but just briefly, if you guys can you just answer like briefly, because I know we're all on a time limit, and I thank you again for all of your time.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had to um, all right. So, when it comes to being heard in a lawful manner, why is paperwork more important than common communication or live debates?
Okay. For your record, when you speak with someone, words can get twisted, right? Game of telephone, he said, she said. When you have it in writing, they can't twist it. That you start your record, your own court on 4 papers of the corner by writing it down and having it on paper.
Okay,
Thank
makes
you.
sense.
Next
Um,
question.
what is the most controversial bill that people haven't paid much attention to and should spread more light on?
Wow, there's a few of them. uh, that's the thing,
Just give us
it,
one.
Yeah, just
I
one
know
is good. That's all we need is one.
I'm trying to go through my head. A lot of people focus on like the ones that make the biggest waves. Like we all saw the 416 bill, A416, where apparently, they can come in and put you in concentration camps. Nick Perry put it out. Um, those usually aren't the ones that we do look into them, but we don't spend too much time on single bills, either just in the House or in the Senate. We try to concentrate on the ones that have both, because those have a higher possibility of either going into committee and or on the floor. We try to keep an eye out for anything potentially submitted by either Brad Hoyman or Jeffrey Dinowitz, because usually they're the ones that try to amend the public health laws so that it incorporates the COVID products. And
Linda
then,
Rosenthal, she's another one.
oh yeah, Linda
Yeah,
Rosenthal, she's
she's
another
another
one.
winner. Yeah, if you research these public servants, you'll start to see the bills that they're putting forth, and that's what you need to look out for, because it's always the same. It's always the same clowns doing the work, and then they got their co-sponsors in their pockets that they always reach out to that are going to co-sponsor their bills every time. So you got to keep your eyes on the public servants. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, 90% of the time, if there's a bill that Jeffrey Dinowitz proposes in the Assembly, Brad Hoyman will provide a sister bill in the Senate. So, we usually try to look at the pairs on that one. I know that we shut a few of them down already, although they're going to try now that the FDA once again has given approval. ... I'm going to put that there because they never finished the sentence. They're going to try and implement it where now that ASIP has put it on the schedule, that they're going to try and amend the public health law for in the education, so that the children get the COVID product. We're going to try and push back on that one. But keep in mind that we're going to have to keep a look at it in what comes onto the table in January, because they're going to have to repropose this in January. Because right now they're all pretty much just on vacation in a way. So when it comes to January, we're going to have to look at everything again before we can make a permanent, accurate statement of which bills to look at more. Anything that regarding making it compulsory to attend anywhere, want to receive an EUA product, we're going to keep an eye out. Anything that risks the right to say no as a mother or father. There was a bill that was proposed last session for that one. There was also a bill that a lot of people actually got behind because they didn't actually fully comprehend the language of the bill. And that's the biggest issue, because they're written by lawyers. And the best example I can give of that, just real quickly, is they had the CPS Miranda rights bill that they proposed, where you didn't have to open the door, you didn't need to speak to them, and that they would basically have to read you their version of the Miranda rights before they can actually communicate with you. Now, a lot of people were like, yay, this is great. We don't have to open the door. We don't have to deal with them. And I'm like, did you guys read the whole thing or just the few snippets of it? Because the last paragraph basically said that they have a right to come in, take your child, and then read your Miranda rights if they believe the child was in imminent harm. And what people were like, yeah, but what type of imminent harm? I'm like, you just had 9 doctors tell you that unless your son or daughter unless your son and daughter gets this product, you're basically opening the door where they could potentially die. If the 3-letter agency is not going to quickly jump on that and claim imminent harm so that your child gets shot up, what bubble are you living in? And we all know in New York City that certain demographics, certain areas have a lot higher CPS visitation rate than others. So, sometimes we just, even bills that look helpful can have the opposite effect if you're not reading it right.
Okay, what's the most tricky part about learning the depths of law that the average person doesn't even look into?
The unlearning. That's the most tricky part, is unlearning everything that you've learned to date about how the system is supposed to operate, how your only voice is through voting, and that if your guy doesn't get in, you now get to live in 2 to 4 years of anxiety and hopefully, have a say the following election. But that's one of the reasons that, one of the first things that we let people know is to look up 1USC1, because that's basically the platform. Once you know who you are in their system, it kind of starts putting cracks into everything else that you were taught.
Yeah, I agree. Taking your ego out of the equation is definitely a big component of it. And I don't mean ego like, oh, you're egotistical. I mean like looking at yourself in the mirror and being like, I was wrong. I was wrong. And a lot of it's, indoctrination, and a lot of it's ignorance, a lot of it's laziness. So once we kind of strip away those layers of ourselves, we're going to come out better on the other end. And then just giving yourself the grace and the patience to know that this is a lifelong education. And, then from there linking up with the proper people and forming a community like the dejure, so that you can feel more empowered and you can just learn from each other and grow that much faster.
Exactly. I mean, men and women need to keep in mind, it took us over 100 years of their education to get us here. We can't flip a switch overnight and people are going to be like, oh, I know that off the top of my head. That's not how it's going to work. So it's, like it was mentioned before, same way we go from 1st grade to 2nd grade to 5th grade to 12th, it's a constant learning process. And best way you can start off is realizing what you are in their system and that you are not that.
Yeah, well, it's been some different things standardized in these times, like alternative medicine and stuff like that. It's just a different game now, and it's time for us to wake up. So this is very important. This is the lawful side of waking up right here.
Exactly. But, when people get discouraged, I always tell them, 100 years got us here. Think of it, 100 years of slowly them letting you know that the only power you have is to go and fill in bubbles like a giant standardized test that nobody studies for. And then we look on a screen at night to see how many people passed, because that's what elections are. It's a standardized test that very few people study for. And the ones that do study are like, I'm opting out of this one, the same way they opt out of the tests in school. Because once you realize what they're really for, you're like, why even bother?
Yeah. And like, I don't know who said it earlier. Somebody said something about the systems and about changing the system, and I felt like the way they explained it was very dynamic. It's just that time. It's that time it's that time to change the system. The system wasn't necessarily built to be bad. Maybe some people got lazy. Maybe some people got in power and they decided they just want to run amok and just be the powerful leader or whatever they consider themselves. And things got distorted, but now it's time to restore that. So we here and
Yeah,
we about to close out. We about to close out soon. So I'm gonna let if anybody has any last things they want to say before we end off. I just want to say I appreciate y'all coming up to talk with us for sure. This is a very informative episode. I'm gonna make sure that it comes out the quality is supposed to. get that information out properly visually. So, anybody else got anything to say? Speak up.
Just want to thank you for allowing us to come on your platform to make sure that the education reaches, even further, because that's the first step in everything, education. Once you know, then you become more powerful with that knowledge, and you're able to stand up for yourself, you know?
Right. We appreciate y'all.
And join us every Thursday if you want to get to know what we're doing. Join us every Thursday at 8 p.m. NewYorkDejure.info/public meeting, and go to our website, NewYorkDejure.info, our link tree. Visit all of our links. Get yourself educated. You could DM us or email us anytime. We're always available to answer your questions. And let's do this, New York. Let's get it going.
All right. Cool. And I got y'all page and everything like that, so I will be able to easily take a look at everything.
That's
All
on
right.
Instagram Live every Thursday at 8, right?
It's Zoom. It's a Zoom meeting every Thursday at 8 p.m. So if you go on our website and you click our public meeting link, it's a Zoom link that you can join. And it's every Thursday at 8 p.m.
All right. Thank you.
And there's a Q&A session after the call, after the official minutes.
Okay, that's great. That's great. All right, so we signing out now. Good night, everybody.
Sorry, Joy has something to say.
Oh, you do? I didn't
I'm
see her.
sorry.
Oh no, I didn't even see you. I'm sorry, I didn't even see you blink or nothing. Okay.
No, it's good. I just wanted to, basically say, I guess for everyone else is saying, thank you for everything. Thank you for what you guys are doing and, the role that you all are playing, in this and getting this out and getting people, to wake up and become more aware. And just, you're gonna feel it in your spirit. Your spirit's gonna move you. And so, I hope that everything that gets said and the words that you hear, empower you and move you, because you were called to bring things. You were called to have dominion over this. And I have mentioned, cosmos and systems, because that's probably one of the things that I'm listening to a teaching about how you were never supposed to let government tell you what to do. You are in charge and you are supposed to be in there. So, hopefully we all get to do that and just get ourselves involved and, check the drawer out. Trust me, you'll be pleasantly surprised and empowered.
All right, so usually we shout out the sponsors, but honestly, the sponsor it's starting to get too much now. So we put a nice, well put together graphic for the sponsors. So we're gonna put the graphic up on the screen. Shout out to all the sponsors: Goldfinger Visions, Squeaky Gems, Mixed by Hugo, and peace to everybody.
Thank you, Dejure. We out. Good night, everyone. Be blessed and continue fighting. Let's go, New York.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you, guys.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.